living La Vida low carb. This show is changing lives. We talking about your diet, trying to get you feeling right. Cut up them avocados, fry some eggs, time to explore the longest running health podcast, hosted by Jimmy Moore. Time to give up the crappy garbage. We're getting into ketosis. Every day is a new step to your goal. Yeah, you're getting closer, motivated and focused. Don't stop, just go. Time to get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com.
Guys, that right there is Nicole Carter. She is healthy_with_Nicole here on Instagram. Go check her out. She is a health coach, helps people resolve their health conditions, primarily looking at gut health, which I don't think gets enough credence. So I'm glad people like yourself are out there helping. She has digital courses, private coaching. She's the author of a brand new book that is about to release. It's next week, right?
Yep, November 4th.
November 4th. So it's called Health is Not a Mystery. So definitely go check that out. Let's see if I can make it big enough so it looks, there we go. Health is not a mystery.
There we go.
No, it's backwards, but the course of your illness is also the cure, or the cause of your illness is also the cure. I love it. Love it.
Great.
I look forward to getting into that myself, but you're here today because I've been wanting to interview you for a while. You're a fascinating Instagrammer. People go follow her, check her out, but
thank you.
You have a topic that I really haven't ever interviewed anybody about before, and it's this idea of estrogen dominance. And guys hear that and they go, okay, it's not about me.
Right, they want to check out.
That it's about the guy. And so I want to definitely hit that one really hard. First of all, tell us how you got interested in health. Did you have a health journey that you had to overcome in your own life to then start coaching other people? What's your story?
Yeah, so for sure. I actually went through, in my younger years, when I went to college, I studied psychology, my bachelor's, and I got out of that and worked for CPS and decided that was awful. So I did not want to go down that path any further, and I really loved health. So I became a fitness trainer, and I started studying herbal medicine. I had such interest in that. I was kind of insatiable. So I studied that for a few years. And then I decided I wanted to actually go back and work in the field, and that I needed more education to do that. Boy, have times changed. But at that time, that was in, let me think, 2003, I graduated with my master's in health promotion, which is an arm of public health.
Yeah.
And throughout this time, I've done health coaching, just, because I love working with people. I always have had a real passion for just helping people. And I struggled with health issues for most of my life. I didn't figure out what that was all due to until the last several years. But I've, continued to work, always in the health field for the last 20 some years. And for the last 5 years, I've actually been working for a major healthcare company in California, and in I will say a public health type of capacity, which has really changed as of late, as you know. But I've continued to do my health coaching on the side because there's just such a huge need for it. Mainstream medicine doesn't do anything for wellness. It just doesn't. They don't address it. They don't know how to address it. Right. Their application is medications for every illness. So I know I'm preaching to the choir here. If
you bring up gut health with a doctor, they're going to look like at you like you have three heads. Like they're not going to know what you're talking about.
It's not a thing. It's not a thing with them. And so, up until my experience with ulcerative colitis, I did a lot of coaching on weight loss. I did a lot with women with hormones after childbirth. I did home births for my kids, so I did a lot with the home birthing community there. But after I had ulcerative colitis, what happened was, and this, I talk about this is the entire story that's in my book, but I went to the doctor, and I was a vegan, by the way. I had been what people thought was the epitome of health. I was a fitness trainer. I was a vegan. I was thin, and I looked very healthy. I did bikini modeling and the whole bit, and you would never know that I was sick. But I was bleeding every day. I was bleeding, and I would go to the bathroom, and it would scare the bejesus out of me every single day, and I just couldn't figure it out. So I ended up going in and getting a colonoscopy, and was diagnosed in 2012 or so with ulcerative colitis. And that day, my doctor said to me, I couldn't believe it. I was really in shock. You know, someone so healthy coming down with this disease that you could die from. And I said, well, what should I do? Is there a special diet I should follow? Because all my life I'd been, you know, really fixated with health and diet, nutrition. And he said, no, it doesn't matter what you eat. Just take the drugs and you hopefully will keep your colon and not die. And,
Wow.
and I left that like traumatized because, you know, you're told that what you eat doesn't matter by a gastroenterologist. Just make no sense.
Right. Well, and think about it. They've done that with a lot of things. Type 2 diabetics, they're like, oh yeah, go ahead and have all the carbs you want. Just shoot yourself up with it.
Just take the drugs and shut up.
Yeah, how about we eat foods that don't promote the need for insulin? Like, it's crazy.
It's insane. And that's where I think I really just lost faith in the medical community. If you need an emergency service, absolutely. I had an ectopic pregnancy I would have died from when I was in my 20s. I had appendicitis a couple of years ago I would have died from if I didn't have surgery. There's absolutely a time and place for it.
Yes.
But unfortunately, 80% of the diseases that people have are chronic diseases.
Yes.
And those take years to manifest. And those are lifestyle diseases. They are not genetic. They're based on our lifestyle choices.
Those are all the diseases that people get put on maintenance drugs to take for the rest of their life. I think about high cholesterol. People come in with high cholesterol. It's not a disease, but it could lead to heart disease, blah, blah, blah. That's at least the way to look at it. And so they say, well, here's this medication that you're going to have to take forever. And, you know, if I'm commonsensically looking at that and going, all right, caveman days, they didn't have medications. And yet they seemed to be pretty healthy. Why is that? Why do we in modern society think health comes in a pill when they, in more ancestral times, always looked at, okay, I'll breathe deeply. I'll get sunshine exposure. I'll go dip in a cold water, dip in a hot water, do all like modalities to make themselves healthy. They never needed these so-called maintenance drugs. They didn't exist. And yet they stayed pretty darn healthy other than getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. That was
right. Well, people have become brainwashed to believe that the answer to their health problems are medications, and that these choices that we make every day with our food, the things that affect our stress, getting out in the sun, they've been brainwashed to believe that those things don't matter. Right. And that it doesn't matter what you do as long as you take the right drug. And unfortunately, far too many people believe that. But I think this is what brought me into the next level of coaching with people, is that I can't stand to sit back and watch people believe that and also spiral down into that disease that they're suffering from, because they just keep getting worse. I've never seen anybody heal this disease through Western medicine. Not ever, not once. And I've talked to thousands of people. Not ever, not once.
You know what's amazing to me is you could have a crappy diet and they'll pay lip service to, yeah, you should probably clean up your diet and eat healthier. But then you choose something like a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet or even a paleo diet, and they'll go, oh my gosh, that's super dangerous. It's like, which is it? Do you want me to be proactive and the one that I choose doesn't fall within what you think is healthy? It is incredible to me, kind of the discouragement that the medical profession puts on patients when they're actually trying to be active about their health.
Yeah. Well, what's unfortunate too, I think, is that doctors mean really well. I don't think there's any doctors out there that want to hurt anybody, but they're just not given the skills to heal them. You know, for example, I believe, and I've got this stat quoted in my book, but I believe that the average doctor receives maybe 20 hours. Okay, 2. Yeah. So it's pretty minimal.
It's 2 weeks is what I've heard tops. I've heard as short as a 3-hour seminar.
Right.
Like, how to get into anything.
But there's no way that you can, I mean, I've been studying, I don't know about you, I'm sure you have too, but I've been studying nutrition all my life. I mean, literally since I was about 21, and I learn new things every day because I actively search and study and read and, you know, see what people are experiencing and also read the science.
I read studies all the time. I got one right here, getting ready to take a look at it when we're done talking here today. Because, once you get the bug, 17 years for me, by the way. So, and you become a student of it, you thirst for more and more and more. And And so, yeah, this is what I try to do in my work. I know it's what you try to do with your clients and in your own work. So kudos to you. But let's get into this topic du jour today, because people hear estrogen dominance. There's maybe thoughts of what they think it is. Explain it. Give us kind of the clarity of what estrogen dominance is.
Right. So every person is exposed to estrogens internally and externally. So obviously women make a lot more in our bodies, but men make it too. The problem comes in when we don't have the balance, and that's what we call estrogen dominance. So estrogen in women is always antagonized by the progesterone, and in men in testosterone. When we are, if we didn't have any exposure to any exogenous or external estrogens in the environment, we humans would probably be able to stay in a better balance. There are things like stress and things that, you know, when we age, women have less progesterone. And so we tip the scales and the estrogen goes up. But unfortunately, we have way more estrogen exposure than that through our environment. So things that basically mimic estrogen, they bind to your estrogen receptors. So this can be, you might have heard of them as endocrine disruptors.
Yes.
Right. So pollutants in the air, fragrances in your cosmetics and your lotions, things in your cleaning supplies. There are numerous things in the environment. Plastics, you know, it's long been known that bisphenol A and plasticizers do mimic estrogens in your body. So what happens is we feel the effects of that estrogen. So in women, we see hormone imbalance problems like infertility, because there's so much estrogen that it actually pushes progesterone down.
Yes.
So women lose their periods, or they have like really insane PMS and hardcore periods, and they're miserable. Some women go into like early menopause. There's a lot of, it's heavy, right? And weight gain is a really big one. Anxiety, depression, all those things come with it. For men can experience balding, weight gain, gynomastia, so basically they grow boobs, and erectile dysfunction. And I've actually worked with men and women, and you'd be surprised how common it is in men. Yeah. And you can test, you know, you don't need to get a test. You can go by your symptoms, but you can actually verify it with blood work and know for sure. So that's pretty much what estrogen dominance is. It's just so much estrogen in our bodies and in the environment that the body can't sustain it, and we're not able to detoxify it very well based on our lifestyle.
The one that shocked me the most was when I found out how estrogenic soy is. And soy is in all kinds of things. You talk about soy lecithin, they put that crap in everything, like from cosmetics to underarm deodorant. It's in everything as well.
It's in everything. Yep.
And so when people are consuming these things, either putting them on their skin, which you're consuming it that way, or through your mouth, you don't realize you're creating man boobs. You're creating erectile function in guys. You're creating infertility in you ladies. It really is amazing how little we know about the estrogenic effects of all kinds of things. Soy is a very prominent one. What are some others?
Well, I think cosmetics are huge. Like fragrances are a really big one. Like I said, there's chemicals in your cleaning agents, and just plastics, which our water now, you cannot drink tap water. If anybody is listening to this drinking tap water, you might as well stop drinking it, because I don't believe in plain water for hydrating the body anyway, but tap water is absolutely toxic. You can actually go and look up your zip code in environmentalworkinggroup.org, and they'll tell you all the toxins that are in your water. But it comes from the fumes from cars. So I live in Southern California, pretty close to PCH, so Pacific Coast Highway. And I hear the vehicles, so I know I'm getting exposed to those toxins in the air, and you know, exhaust fumes basically have estrogenic effect.
You know, I go out on my walk every morning, and I have cars pass by, and some of them, when they pass by, it's just like this morning, one really just boom right in my face. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Like, no. Yeah, but I mean, you can try to go through a day without being exposed to exogenous estrogens, but you won't be able to. It's just everywhere. Food, water, chemicals and things, it's just not possible. So the problem comes in when we don't detoxify it. So a couple things here, like you actually have, and I learned this doing the research for my book, we actually have a something in our gut, in our microbiome called the estrobolome. And it's how your body reuses or detoxifies estrogens. And it happens in the gut. So if your gut microbiome is out of balance, which a lot of us are, it probably won't be able to get rid of that estrogen. It's going to continue to recirculate it. Also, if people have like poor elimination, if they get constipated or whatever, their body's going to reabsorb and reuse that estrogen and keep storing it because you actually excrete it through your urine and mostly your colon. But also the worst place for your body is storing it in your fat. So fat cells hold a lot of estrogens. So the more body fat you have, the more estrogen dominant you can be. So even just simply doing whatever you've got to do to lose the body fat. And I know you're on a journey with this too. Yep. And so not only are you changing your body composition, you're detoxifying your body of the estrogens that you're storing.
And there's some days I feel it. I can feel the toxins leaving my body because I get that temporariness as the body's being, body fat's being burned. I can feel like physical effects of that. I get really tired.
Wow.
Have different things that change. And so that's a part of it. You just have to deal with that.
Yeah. And you can help your body. You know, I think fasting can be helpful. If you use it right, I used it for my healing journey of ulcerative colitis, and it was amazing. A lot of people think it's really dangerous and bad. I think there's a right and a wrong way to use it, but, or I'd say a better and a less better way to use it. But that can be good. And also liver health. So a lot of people don't even think about their liver. We are born with an innate ability to clean our bodies. And it's actually through, we have many organs. So any organ that excretes a fluid is a detoxifying organ. And if you look it up in a biology book, it'll say your excretory system. This is the system for cleaning your body. And it gets all mucked up based on our environment, our food, our stress levels and things like that. But your liver is one of the main ones that cleans the body because it cleans the blood. And I believe that it has a lot to do with emotion and what we're lacking in our food. So in other cultures, they eat bitter foods. Yes. In American culture, we do not. People taste something bitter and they're like, no, it's bitter, so I don't want to eat that. But when you have a bitter glycoside of a material hit your tongue, it actually stimulates the flow of bile from your liver. It actually stimulates the manufacturing of bile and then the flow of it through your gallbladder. And that process then cleans the liver, flushes the gallbladder and the colon. So that's one reason that I think we lack in the detoxification areas, that we're just not eating things that support liver health. So I always have my clients, hot tip, dandelion root tea is pretty awesome and it's super safe. I have clients that have liver damage from eating too much crap, and they don't even drink alcohol. So the liver is a big piece to detoxifying the estrogen out of your body. And if you can get that going, it'll go a long way to help you.
Yeah, NAFLD is an epidemic in America, especially non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And yeah, it's from all the crappy garbage, as I call it.
Garbage, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, so much sugar, and I know you follow the keto journey pretty strictly, so you're probably like miles away from the whole sugar life. But for a lot of people, it's just their lifestyle. They don't even think about it. I had a new client start a couple weeks ago. And she was eating, sugary foods for breakfast. And we're talking about like donuts and stuff like that. I haven't seen a person eat a donut in years, but she's still there. And so, people come in this continuum, right? They're either like already kind of down the road and working on it, or they're brand new. So she's brand new and she has, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And she's got a damaged liver and she's very overweight and she's got signs of estrogen dominance. All kinds of problems, but guess what? She's eating sugar and processed foods and crappy fats for breakfast. And then she's having pasta in her sauces and things for lunch and dinner because she's Italian. Yeah. And so, but she never really thought of like, what's wrong with that? Why is there a problem with what I'm eating?
Keto can be hard. Tabulating, measuring, baking, taking 3 months to perfect one recipe, and to mixed reviews.
Did something die in here? Oh, I think it moved.
And by that point, you give up your diet, find a dark corner, and stuff yourself with sugar, carbs, and regret.
This, isn't what it looks like.
Well, this is where Keto Chow saves the day. The easiest, tastiest, ketoist meal replacement on the market.
It's like ice cream melted in my mouth.
Yes, but melted ice cream with all the protein, nutrients, vitamins, and electrolytes your body needs.
Oh, that's cool.
And with 3 starter kits, each with restaurant tips, keto food guides, and a ton of flavors to try, your taste buds and your waistline will thank you.
Thank you.
So grab your starter kit today at jimmylovesketochow.com.
It's so easy.
Keto Chow. Make keto easy.
And therein lies the problem, I think, and I've joked with a few other guests recently. We should have on the supermarket shelves things that are real food, just call them food. And then the things that aren't real food, call them not food. They have to put not food on it. Difference. And like if you willingly eat not food, which I would include spaghetti and things like in there, Coca-Cola, you name it, people would not be confused. Well, that's where the, I guess, convoluting of this question comes into play, is people see all the junk food as food, and yet pseudo nourishes you, but I think it strips more out of you than it gives you nourishment.
For sure, it makes you toxic, and you start to gain fat, and you start to become insulin resistant, and those all. I think we can't separate out the problems that people have, because they all feed into one another. You know what I mean? So whether you're toxic or you're overweight or you're estrogen dominant, it's not really one thing, because sooner or later they're probably going to all come around. Yeah. Most of the people that have problems like that don't just have one in isolation.
Yes.
They all kind of piece together.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, because insulin is that master hormone, which, by the way, I hear your little doggy in the background.
I know. I'm sorry. She's out there barking at the gardener.
She's so cute. Hi, gardener. Hi, dog. So insulin is the master hormone. And what role does higher levels of insulin play in this estrogen dominance? I would assume it would exacerbate it. It would speed up the process. Yeah,
it does. So insulin is a fat storing hormone. Estrogen is a fat storing hormone. It's a growth hormone. So when we actually have higher levels, so here's like a little chain reaction that I think happens a lot with people is they have a high insulin for some reason. And by the way, it can be stress. So a lot of people go, well, I'm not eating any sugar, and they check their blood sugar and they've got like a 95. Well, you can spike your blood sugar from just stress and eating nothing. I've actually done it myself and checked my numbers and seen people. If you ever do a CGM, you'll see it. But so for some reason, they're spiking their blood sugar, and then insulin's trying to do its job. So it is released from the pancreas to bring down that glucose. So that's the first stimulus, is whatever has raised the glucose, stress or poor food. And then, or even lack of sleep, which raises cortisol. So that recipe creates elevated insulin. And then as soon as the insulin is high, and it's a matter of, it's normal for the insulin to bump up a little bit, but it should be minimal and it should come right back down. Right. The problem is that for most people, it's elevated for a long time and multiple times a day, like constantly. You see people walking around drinking those 2 liters of soda, their insulin is like elevated all the time. And so once you start to have that, now you're storing fat and you're making a home for that extra estrogen. And so your body is always going to be making estrogen, right? For you, a lot less than for me, but we're all making it. And now we're getting bombarded from our environment. And so now we've got a place to store it. We got more fat and places to put that estrogen. And on top of that, when your insulin levels get high, your thyroid level can drop. And when your thyroid is impaired, you lose function, or estrogen levels go up. So a lot of times people with low functioning thyroid, even if it's like subclinical, they'll have high cholesterol and estrogen dominance. Yes. Super common, because that they're not functioning. So like I said, it's never just one thing. It's always fitting together.
Well, and that's the lesson here that I want people to take away today, which, by the way, fascinating conversation, loving this, is that if one thing is off, it's going to set this chain reaction of things off in the body. And I think if people got their insulin under control, it would help prevent the estrogen dominance from ever becoming a thing, because you're not going to mess with your thyroid issues. You're not going to mess with body fat being stored and thus estrogen being stored in there and having it develop that way. It just does seem to me, kind of looking at it from a system standpoint, what should we focus on? How do you get people to fix this?
Yeah.
And it sounds like getting insulin down is a key aspect of it.
Right. And there's a couple ways to do that. And I think the first thing, because it's highly popularized, first thing that people go to is like the keto diet, which can work really well. Doesn't work great for everybody, but I've had people, most people seem to do pretty good with it, at least for a period of time, until they can get those levels down. Yeah. So coming in and out of ketosis, I think, can be really helpful for people. But I have had people that have worked on keto diets for like years and got nowhere. And when you dig into it a little bit, I believe it's because they have had past traumas or a lot of stress. And I talk about this in my book too, because I had a lot of past traumas. You can talk about any point in your life. Or have you ever heard of the ACEs, the Adverse Childhood Event Study? Okay, so I did a lot of work in that. And people that have had past traumas or have chronic stress, which, tell me somebody that doesn't have chronic stress, right? I'd love to hear somebody in the comments tell me that they have a stress-free life, because I've never seen it.
I want to meet them so I could punch them in the face.
Right? Thank you. Yeah, let's beat that person up a little bit. But yeah, so we have all of this constant stressors. And by the way, even if you've had a trauma in your life that is gone, right? It's in the past, it's in the history. If you've not dealt with that or processed that, and it's still living in here, your body never forgets.
Yes. You
have to process that stuff and move it out, because it will constantly cause the stress. And physiologically, that's where that cortisol goes, bing, I'm going up.
And as somebody who did go through pretty bad childhood trauma in my teenage years, I was beaten and berated both mentally and physically. Mm-hmm. Your body doesn't forget. I still have, and I'll notice them now. That's the cool thing. Once you kind of start doing this work, you start to notice triggers. You start to notice, okay, what happens that then you have this visceral reaction in your body. And then you can work on it. But I don't think you fully ever let it all go. Like,
I don't think so either.
My brain doesn't forget anything.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. And there's actually a really wonderful book for anybody who's experienced trauma, abuse, or anything like that in your childhood. It's called The Body Keeps Score.
Yes.
It's great book. And no, I don't think we can change the past, but I think we can learn to manage our emotions about it. So remember that it's not the stress that makes us sick. It's our response to it and how we perceive it.
Awareness is everything. It's because I've been doing a lot of the mindset stuff and helping people with trauma. I got another whole podcast I do all about mindset and trauma and things like that, called One Step Deeper. And it's like, we go there. We dig deep into these kinds of things, because if you're stuck, if you're eating a great diet, if you're doing all these physical things to try to better yourself and things aren't moving, and I don't even mean just weight. Yeah, that's an obvious one, but blood sugar coming down, insulin coming down, getting your estrogen dominance under control. If those things aren't happening with what you're doing, that's dig deeper. You try to say, hey, is it unresolved trauma? Is it something else going on in my life? Is my gut health off? Do I have excessive toxins, maybe heavy metals in the body? There's all kinds of things that can impact this.
Yeah. And you know what's even crazier is I think a lot of people don't realize that stress and trauma, in whatever fashion it shows up, actually has an effect on the way your organs function. And it's through the vagus nerve. So it's not Vegas like the party town. It's VAGUS. You can look it up and read into it for viewers that are new to that. But the vagus nerve is your cranial nerve. It's the 10th cranial nerve, called the wandering nerve. And it actually innervates a lot of our digestive organs, including your pancreas that controls your blood sugar.
Yes.
Including your gut, including like all of your organs that are related to digestive health. This nerve runs through that. And its job is to get a message, tell the organ what to do.
Yes.
And when that nerve becomes damaged from stress or trauma, so basically it's activated when we're in the rest and digest.
Yes.
And when we're in the stress response, it's like dormant. And so it's like if you're not flexing that muscle, it loses its muscle tone. And that vagus nerve needs to be activated through those meditations, chanting, like all of the things that stimulate the parasympathetic, right? And we don't do that in our culture.
There are two things I do for my vagus nerve. I actually have this essential oil that's made specifically for the vagus, and you just rub it back there and
Nice.
get there and kind of do this little massage, and it just, and then you get all the aromatherapy. But then the other thing I do is when I do ice baths, getting that
There you
big
go.
below the cold water, because talk about parasympathetic. When you're ice bath and your vagus nerve is all happy with the cold, that you are so chill, you are so zen.
Yeah.
Do
Well,
it for a reason. Just do it for the zen. It's amazing.
You're tough. I just go and jump in the water. That's cold enough for me. I can't deal with the ice yet. I'm just not there.
Oh, I have one of those tanks. There's a company called Morozco Forge. I ordered one. It's going to be here in a couple weeks, where you can set the temperature. And so I'm ready for like 34, 35 degrees, and then getting my head, basically my nose will be above the water and everything else will be below the water.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Kudos to you. I'll be watching I'll be watching at home with my hot tea and blankets while you're soaking in the ice cubes.
I love cold. I don't do hot very well because I'm already, but no, I don't do the cold very well. And so, or don't do the hot very well.
But the ice is awesome. Like it really does stimulate the nerves. So there's a lot of ways that you can do for people that don't like the ice bath, or there's a lot of ways that you can work on this nerve, which does impact estrogen dominance along with your gut health and everything else. Like we said, it all pieces together. But I did a video maybe a week ago on like breathing exercises, singing, chanting, humming, gargling. Another thing that people don't realize actually affects their physical health is just like being with people. And in the last year, right, all of this fear that people are infected with and trying to isolate and everything has been, I think, very detrimental to people's health.
Girl, I have been to 2 biohacking conferences in like the last month. I have never had so much fun at conferences. And one of the conferences was really lame. The other one was great, but one of them was really lame. But I still had fun because I was around people and I got to hug people and see eyes and laugh. Like
it's super important. Like we need to connect with other humans. And it's actually when we, so everyone knows the hormone oxytocin.
Yes.
Oxytocin, it's kind of got its popularized by like breastfeeding women or, when you have intimate connections and things like that. But it's actually produced in your body when you're having like an in-person conversation with someone, you're laughing, you're talking, you're connecting. It's like the connection hormone.
Yes.
And it actually is the antidote to cortisol. It's like tipping the scale. So the more that we have those connections, the less that stress goes down. And I'll tell you that in my professional work, we've had like a 900% increase in calls to crisis suicide hotlines over the last 2 years. And I really believe it's because people are flooded with fear. And then they have no connection. They're wanting to hole up in their homes and do this isolating thing. It's just terrible.
Well, and look what it did to our kids. I think I saw a statistic, 1 in 4 teenagers last year attempted suicide, many of them successful at it. And it's like, yeah,
it's frightening.
Like, the ramifications of decisions, that's a big one. And you never really hear that talked about in the mainstream. All the down regulation of all these decisions to keep us safe have made us less safe in a lot of other ways.
For sure. I think it's, in my opinion, absolute opposite thing. I mean, there's ways to keep, I'm a believer in your health is not, my health isn't depending on your health. My health is depending on my health. And so if I am good here and I'm strong and I'm eating well and I'm dealing with stress and I'm getting sunshine and all that, that's probably the best thing I can do. And anybody outside of that isn't really, you know what I mean? I'm a believer of the terrain theory.
If someone else is at risk, then they need to work on their own terrain.
They need to work on themselves. Yeah. Well, like this whole idea that we're responsible for other people, I mean, it's a nice thought, but it's just not true. I mean, we have to be responsible for our own health. And that means not just relying on your doctor to say, you know, here's a drug to keep you healthy, goodbye. It means taking responsibility for yourself. And you're a great promoter of that. I hear your lives and you talking to people every day and saying, look, you know, get your ass outside, stop sitting around whining about your life and how unhealthy and unfit you are, and go do something about it. And that's really what it boils down to. Is I think a lot of people don't do that. They want someone to fix it, and they want someone else to be responsible or give them a pill or whatever.
Well, we've been conditioned in our culture that health comes in a pill, that health comes from a man or a woman in a white coat who tells you this is what you do, rather than you're the boss, you're the author of your own domain, you figure out what to do, learn for yourself, and then go do those things. I hate this like movement in our country of people saying, well, somebody's going to tell me how to be healthy. Oh, I take this pill. Okay, I'll do it. And no questions are ever asked.
We've been conditioned to do that. And people have been conditioned into authoritarianism for many, many years, from education, from the educational structure, you know, college and high school and even grade school. They're all the way down the rung. They are one person in charge. You listen to the authoritarian figure and you ask no questions. You follow the instructions, and that goes all the way through the medical system and everywhere. So there's not really space in this current medical system for people to be empowered. And I kind of wonder if that was intentional. Maybe we don't want people asking questions, you know, just take the drug and be a good kid and go do your, you know, follow your instructions. But if we were all to rebel and start asking questions, we might uncover some things that aren't supposed to be uncovered.
My problem is I eat well, I take care of myself. Yeah, I'm still working on different things, but for the most part, I'm pretty healthy. And so I can cognitively think for myself. And like a lot of people can't, because they're eating crap that messes with their brain health.
Yeah, agreed. If you think about all of our food, I believe our food is poisoned. One of the big things that's problematic with our current food system here in the United States, there's this huge movement about plant-based, and I don't care who you are, you're not going to thrive on a vegan diet, period. Sorry, it's just not going to happen. You don't have, there's not, and I did it for many years, so I can tell you from experience and research, I just have never seen anybody do well on it long-term. But there is this huge movement about plant-based, and if you're following a heavy plant-based diet, you're also getting in a lot of toxins that are put into our farming and agriculture.
Yeah.
And even meats and things like that that are grown conventionally.
Yes.
But our food system is super toxic, and people aren't really taught that. They're just taught, oh, follow the food pyramid, get most of your calories through grains and legumes, and then vegetables too. But those happen to be super toxic for people.
Have you experienced the dreaded keto flu? Did you know that most of these symptoms are actually due to your body dumping excess electrolytes? This is where Element comes in. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means lots of salt with no sugar. Element is formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and is perfectly suited to folks following a keto, low-carb, or paleo diet. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium, with none of the junk, no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, no BS. Everyone needs electrolytes, especially those on low-carb diets, or if you practice intermittent or extended fasting, if you're physically active, or sweat a lot. Add Element today and see how much better you feel and perform. Use the URL drinklmnt.com/Jimmy.
The funniest one to me is this whole plant-based burger movement. Like, they created this plant-based burger 3-4 years ago, Beyond Meat, Impossible Burger. And then they're like, it's the future of meat. And then nobody bought it. A lot of these investors went, wait a minute, what's going on? And now they're so vilifying meat. All the inflation that's happened has hit meat the hardest. If you try to go buy meat,
Yeah.
farmer I buy from, the grass-fed beef has gone from $7.99 a pound to $10.99 a pound.
Yeah.
Like up astronomically fast. They think that's going to discourage people from eating it. Oh, and here we come in with the plant-based burger, as if they're an equivalency. They're not even an equivalency when it comes to complete profile of the amino acids, which is what animal-based foods give you.
Yeah.
They think all protein is made alike, and it's not.
Not. No, and in fact, if you look at those labels, I've never purchased one of those. I did actually get one by accident one time at a meeting, and I took one bite of it, and I immediately felt ill. I knew it wasn't a burger, but I've seen pictures of the label, and that thing has like 30 ingredients in it, and I couldn't even name them all, and
Yes.
Nothing really real in it.
The funny part to me is like all the ethical vegans. Oh, we don't want to be about killing, but then they put beet juice in it to mimic the blood of meat. It's like,
you know what? That I understand people's reason for being an advocate for animal rights and all of that. I grew up on a farm, Jimmy. I know how farming works, and in order to clear a crop of corn, animals are going to die. They are going to die because farming equipment, you've displaced their living situation. There is no way to raise any food or vegetable, plant matter, whatever, without hurting another animal. It's not possible. So the idea of, I don't want to eat meat because I'm harming somebody, you're going to harm something no matter what you eat.
Yes. From the pesticides to the soil is made of dead animals. It's like, look.
Yeah, and if you think about all the produce that we grow, so I'm not a big fan of vegetables because most people don't do very well with them in terms of gut health when they have serious issues. They tend not to be able to tolerate the fibers, the chemicals that are in the vegetables, naturally occurring and also otherwise. And now all of our agriculture is infiltrated with glyphosate. So that's the Monsanto seed that, basically is built-in pesticides, for those of you that aren't familiar. And glyphosate, it actually opens up the tight junctions in your gut lining. So that's what causes leaky gut. So you're eating what you think is healthy, and over time, and it doesn't even take that long. I mean, I can see months maybe for people, though the food that you're eating causes so much inflammation, the tight junctions open up, and then food particles pass through those little openings, and that's what we call gut permeability or leaky gut. And that's pretty much the initiation of a lot of your autoimmune diseases and where your gut lining is damaged. So we have a very thin mucus layer that protects the gut lining, and microbiome keeps that intact. So when your microbiome gets thrown off, now you become compromised there. Now your gut lining becomes compromised, and all these toxins that we eat in our food, and even if it's vegetables, damage that gut lining and cause it to be permeated by toxins. So our food supply is so bad that I just don't see how people can survive and live a healthy life eating the food that's available to us. I buy all my food, my meats from a farmer, and wild caught fish, pasture raised eggs. And then I don't need much produce unless it's either something I've grown or I can find it from a farmer that's grown it. I don't trust the other stuff.
Well, and even some of the so-called organic farmers that you see at farmers markets, how do you know there's not drift of all those pesticides lands? And so it's kind of like, you want to trust, can you?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really afraid for our food supply system, and that's why I promote the animal-based diets, because I'm a believer that the grass-fed animals, grazing cows, actually will fix our planet and soil if given the opportunity.
Yes.
But then you've got all these people trying to wipe them out. And I'm telling you, it's not cow farts that are the problem out here. It's not. It's the manufacturing and the cars and everything else that causes most of the pollution. It has nothing to do with these cows.
Yeah, we need to do a cow movie like they did the bee movie. Remember the bee movie where they like bees and then all the desolate because they couldn't spread the pollen. It's the same way. If you remove all the ruminant animals and they can't crap on land and
Yeah.
fertilize all the things that they do to make it thrive, we will become a desolate planet.
There's a really cool group called the Savory Institute.
Alan
You seen
Savory.
them? Yeah, Alan Savory, and they do some educational work around it, but unfortunately they're not real big. Like, you just don't really see them out very much, but they talk about that and basically teach how that animals, like grass-fed and grazing ruminant animals, will fix the planet and soil.
He has an amazing TED Talk that actually went pretty viral a few years back, 3 or 4 years ago, where, yes, that's where I kind of learned this idea. They're like, oh, we got this really desolate land. They kind of gave up on it. And they're like, let's put a bunch of cows on there and watch what happens. And within like months, green started popping up spontaneously.
It's amazing. And so you've got this like incongruency here with people that are environmentalists and at the same time vegan, because they believe that that's going to be helping the environment. So when I was vegan, I actually did it for the environment. I grew up on farms and I saw animals die, and it sucks, but it's just part of life. So, but I believed that, you know, it was harming the environment to have raising cows. Now, factory farms are a different story,
yes,
because they do feed them garbage and they do pollute things. But when we talk about like helping, if you really want to help the environment, going vegan actually isn't going to do it. Supporting these ruminant animals and grazing lands is actually probably one of the best things that we can do. And stop buying all this packaged food that requires plastic packaging, you know, and all these chemicals that are put into the environment. And, you know, when you buy those foods, like you mentioned, conventionally grown produce, they're dumping tons of chemicals into the earth.
I would so love to have a cow on my property. I've got 11 chickens that I adore. I love watching them digging, and they're pecking constantly. I'll throw them a few of my people foods every once in a while. If I'm full from my meal, I'll give them the rest of my grass-fed beef or little smoked sausages or whatever, and they just gobble that up. But their favorite food, ironically, Nicole, chicken.
Really?
Yeah, if I have a rotisserie chicken, I will eat what I can from it, and then I'll throw the whole carcass out there. And by like 20 minutes later, there is no bone, there is no nothing left. They ate Uncle Charlie.
Oh, that is amazing. So I haven't had chickens forever. In our farm, we had cows, and I think we had pigs. And by the time I was old enough to get integrated with the animals, we didn't have the chickens anymore. So I've actually never had chickens of my own. But I totally envy you for it. I see some people that have like chickens and goats and making cheese and eggs and live off the land and live off their, you know, off-grid living. So that's the way to go.
If the apocalypse happens, at least I won't die first.
You're set. And you probably have a shit ton of eggs. I mean, if 12 chickens.
I used to have 35 was the most I had.
Oh my gosh.
I was getting probably almost 2 dozen a day. This time of year, when they change the seasons, they don't like it. They lose their feathers when it gets colder, and they kind of cut back on production. But in the height of the summer, I was getting about 8 to 9 a day, which I eat a lot of eggs. I don't eat that many eggs.
That's a lot of eggs. Yeah. Maybe you can like pickle them and store them.
Well, what I end up doing is helping out poorer families that can't afford good quality food. I'll be like, all right, I will got to promise to try to eat better. Like, they'll eat junk food now. Oh, I can't afford to get healthy food. Okay, well, this is free. So
that's awesome. See, what a good Samaritan you are. I love that. Always helping people. We
should all be doing our part, Nicole. I think that's the way the world is meant to be. Unfortunately, we've lost our way in that, haven't we?
Well, hopefully the work that you're doing and other people like you and like me can help guide people back on track. And we've really gotten off base with this last couple years. You know, people just have to really start questioning things and go back to what makes sense. Go back to the basic stuff. You know, we are humans built to withstand viruses and bugs and all kinds of stuff. We're pretty hardy. If we just take care of ourselves and our body like nature intended, I think we'll be just fine. We've been around for a while.
We've survived without the need for what I like to call the hokey pokey. We don't need drug. We don't need things like that.
Yeah.
Our bodies are quite resilient, especially when we give a damn about them, which is what my work's about, your work's about. You know, and it's amazing to me how many people in our world are so willing to go along and go, oh yeah, we all need that. I'm like, what? Like, when have we ever been for medication over your body doing what it's supposed to do? That's made no sense to me at all.
No, and I think that there's just different levels of it. You know, I've always, since I was in my 20s, I've not actually my whole life, because my mom never used medicines for us. I talk about in my book, you know, my childhood of how we didn't get vaccinations, we didn't get medications, we didn't go running to the doctor every time we had a sniffle. My mom would make us some soup and some tea and cold cloths and let your body do its job and rest, you know, and we all did fine. And, you know, even like, so I had 2 home births, and people were out of their minds because they thought I was going to die and my kids were going to die. And I'll admit there are some risks to it, but you know, I was careful, and people were just, I think they just have given up their belief in themselves. And that we are strong, healthy beings, and we don't need a whole lot of intervention. And if you want to stay healthy, stay away from that stuff and work on your health, and you probably will be okay.
And if you're scared, stay home and be scared the rest of your life. The rest of us want to live.
Yeah, we want to live. I hear you.
Sorry, not sorry. So
no.
Health is not a mystery. The cause of your illness is also the cure. Coming out next week. So where can people go get it? Will it be on Amazon?
Yeah, so I'm also doing a giveaway. If you go to my Instagram page and in the bio, you can click on the Goodreads giveaway. Thank you. And I'm giving away 100 copies. The November 4th is the release date, and it goes to Goodreads. So sometime after that, you can sign up for a free copy. And if you don't happen to win a copy, then you can pick it up for $10 on Amazon.
Okay, cool. So again, healthy_with_Nicole, Nicole. Don't put the H in there, is her username over on Instagram. Oh, wow, you're live right now.
Oh, how about that? Thanks so much for having me, Jimmy. This has been really fun. I've always followed you, and I love your energy. You've got spectacular energy and super inspiring to people. So thanks so much for having me.
Get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com.
Woo! You tired of playing the mask game? Me too. That's why I wanted to tell you about the Unmask. This is a breathable, completely breathable. It covers, you can't even see that it's breathable, but it's breathable. Whether you're going on a plane, having to go into a store and wearing this thing, playthemaskgame.com is how you can get this mask. They come in all kinds of colors and everything. In fact, right there, you can see right through it what it is, but when you're wearing it, it does not look like it's anything different, but it's breathable, baby. Playthemaskgame.com.